Hello, White Building. This is Jason Schneiderman, coming to you from New York. I'm very, very sorry that I can't be there with you in person. Rachel, thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm thrilled to be a part of Static. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about a scholarly concern that I have, and then I'm going to connect that to a poem, and I'll read you a poem, and then I'll end by playing a sound piece that I've been working on that hopefully will kind of touch on all of these concerns about identity and boundaries and gender and sexuality. So, one of the things that I'm interested in right now as a scholar is the way we have in the United States a lot of media narratives that are presenting transgender activism as kind of something new. And in these narratives, the discussion is basically from 1969 to about the early 2000s. There was gay activism, and gays and lesbians, homosexuals were getting their rights and fighting for their rights. And now it is the time for transgender people to become active and visible, and in the same way that homosexuals did, particularly in the 1990s, it is now their turn. And there's certainly a great truth to that. And the truth is that from the late 60s to the early 2000s, transgender people were often left out of the games that were being made by gay and lesbian people. However, in representing Stonewall as the starting point of gay rights, and in representing Stonewall as something that is gay and not transgender, it really erases that history in which transgender people were extremely active and extremely present and crucial to this movement. Um, I have other interests in terms of going back even further. That if you look at a novel like The Well of Loneliness from 1928, it really only works as a, a novel about inversion, right? And that's a conflation of sex and gender, right? That puts them together. It's a lesbian, well, it's neither a lesbian nor a transgender person, it's an invert. And so if you try to use another model, if you try to look at The Well of Loneliness as a lesbian novel, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It's a terrible lesbian novel, and lesbians have been very angry about it being a bad lesbian novel for a really long time. But that's because it's a novel about inversion. And if you try to make it a transgender novel, it similarly doesn't work because it's really about sex and gender being together in a way that right now we're really kind of keeping a pretty severe firewall between. And that's actually a fairly new way of thinking gay and trans identity. And so this is really what I'm interested in, the way that these contemporary narratives are kind of misrepresenting the path and past and giving us a kind of slightly false notion of what that past looked like. So, as a historian and scholar of sex and gender, I kind of track these different boundaries and these different identities. As a poet, I get to make up where those boundaries and those genders and those sexualities are kind of blending into each other. So, I'm going to read you a piece now from a sequence that I've been working on, uh, and these are poems about last things. And so this poem is called The Last Widow. The Last Widow. The last widow misses men. The last widow misses her husband a great deal, but she also liked men in general. She refuses all of the invitations to appear on the morning news shows until the medical bills turn out to be more than she can swing, and she accepts the money to be interviewed. The last widow tries, this time on air, to explain that the past wasn't like what people think it was, and how now the only thing anyone knows of men are from Victorian novels and internet pornography. People have a skewed idea of what men were like. And no, she's not saying that rape wasn't a problem, and yes, we do have more options with the wonderful things that are being done with silicone, but really, it wasn't just penises that she liked. And in fact, her own husband's wasn't at all like the ones you see in the surviving documents, and really, no woman she knew behaved like the women in those videos. So, can't you understand that most of the men were different too? Some of her friends suggest that she seek comfort with one of the young people who have the facial hair that's so in style now, And the last widow wants to say, I'm not a lesbian. But that word doesn't have much meaning now, in a world without men. And it's not really that she wants a substitute for the husband she misses, as much as she wishes people understood what it is that she wants back. And so I'm now going to play a sound piece that I've been working on. And this was really inspired by the work of John Giorno and the way that he particularly layers different sounds and often processes the sounds. And what I wanted to do was see if I could layer sounds until they kind of lost their meaning. And so, in my own sort of cross gendered gay identification, I of course chose a line from a Madonna song. And so, this is the soundscape that I've been working on. Borderline. Feels like I'm going to lose my mind. 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 Borderline. Feels like I'm going to lose my mind. Okay, so thank you so much for having me, and I hope that I can be with you in London sometime soon, hopefully in the summer or the fall.